guitar trick takes 2 seconds to apply, and this literally makes or breaks your guitar recording. If there was one clickbaity guitar recording tactic not many were talking about to really change your tracking from amateur to pro, this would be the one. The technique that we're discussing here is simple: stripping the silence between your chugs. This allows you to create the tightest, neat and clean guitar sound without any unwanted noises coming from your muting or amp noise floor. This also allows you to see your chugs on the grid better and move this around for maximum tightness accordingly. I can't believe though how many of you still miss this. And this is not because you're lazy. This is not because you don't have the technical skill to execute this either. You simply don't know this approach and the benefits that it brings to you. So my job today is to get into the specifics, whys and hows of stripping silence and cleaning up your guitar tracks with the best outcomes for your guitar tracking. Let's go! First thing first, let's record a riff which would sound like a breakdown, kind of chuggy zeros riff. So, before, let's check it out. Okay, now let's take a listen to the after. Do I need to comment on this too much? This is a major difference from raw, amateur, not tight, to tight, polished, professional sound. And you can get to this level of tightness literally in minutes. In this next section, I'm going to show you the exact process of cutting and stripping that silence, applying fades, and then we will examine whether you can achieve that same thing by using a gate before your amp sim or amp. Let's do it! Hey, I'm Dr. Mike Trubetskov and I'm here to bring valuable information on recording, producing and mixing metal. So mate, please like and subscribe to not miss out and give this value to your mates as well. This video is not an excerpt from my guitar course, which I've been working so hard on for the past few months, but that course contains so much more in-depth information on recording guitars at home, and it covers everything you need from instrument setup to editing, amp sims, cab IRs, tracking, punch-ins, mixing and anything in between. So, early access version is right now available for you with a massive discount. If you want it, sign up by the link below. And hey, I'll even give you my neural amp modeler profile for the amp that I'm using in this video, so for free. Just get it, man. The technique that we're discussing is quite simple. However, there are some important details that can change the perception of your sound quite a lot. We will discuss gating and how that affects stripping silence and why you still need to consider manual removal of those gaps. We will also discuss fades and the length of those cuts so that your chugs still sound natural and you can actually control the power of each. The process of stripping that silence out is simple. You zoom in, you find, you pick attack, you just need to make sure you cut to the attack, and this normally happens a bit more early than you would think. And you do the same for the decay. And now here, this is the key thing, you just get rid of that and all of the tracks that you have accordingly. You're getting rid of essentially this here. Let me play this to you. All that is mud, nothing else. For your super natural, raw kind of guitar tone, you may keep some of that in, but in most of the cases, this is just information that is accumulating and building the muddiness for your final mix and is really, really distracting you from tight guitar performance or otherwise other instrument performance. So you just get rid of that and you just literally visually go and fix that up. That's done. Now, this gives you an immediate advantage as well. And the advantage is as follows. You have your grid and you have your chugs sitting on the grid. And here you can immediately see that this chug is early, quite significantly. So you may fix this up by moving this across. and syncing this up with your other guitar track. And this is much more obvious now because you've isolated your guitar tracking, and now you are out of this continuous palette of where's the noise, where's the actual information, into the tight and isolated DI versus amp. And the final step is to apply some fade outs. Now, before we do that, let's take a listen to the two tracks and see how that sounds, just raw strip back by my eye. That sounds straight away pretty damn good. Even though I have not introduced any fade outs, I didn't worry about the length and the duration of those tails. These sound really, really much tighter now. However, here's a good example here. So here, this tail ends prematurely, and it sounds like it falls out of this bass here, which you can see is this much longer. That creates inconsistency. So when you're editing those guitars, you need to make sure that they go along with the bass track as well. And vice versa here, you can hear a little bit of an annoying kind of tail that is kept within the track. This is what I'm talking about. Also, obviously not applying the fade means that you can hear some pops and clicks, which you absolutely need to get rid of as well. So here are two options for you. The first one is if you're really lazy and you want to save your time, drop a gate onto two of your tracks, set it out so that it gradually fades this tail, and see how this sounds. So this is not bad, it's smoother, but still you don't have any manual control on those fades. And let me show you, especially in this example here, it didn't quite really help for this to sound tight. But if you select this and apply this kind of fade, and maybe you can manually shorten it accordingly, that sounds so much better right away. But here's the trick. If you want this to be more natural, you can elongate this. See how that sounds? That's pretty good as well. It has that sponginess to it now, which wasn't the case before. And now if you want it ultra tight, you can as well. Both options change the perception of your final chug result. You can play around with that. You can play around with the entrance as well, similarly, like that. That's super tight and refined, and before was not as tight. And that's it. Literally, you just go through all of your tracks, get rid of that silence, and manipulate that tail of the chug until you are satisfied with it. Simple. Unfortunately, many of you guys are still missing this, and so I truly hope that this inspires you to experiment with this and helps you to get onto the next level. And now in this next section of the video, I'm gonna show you why automatic gating before the amp is not a full solution to this problem, as many of you may think otherwise. Let's do that. In this next example here, I will consider a traditional scenario where you only have the DI and your amp sim. The amp sim that I'm using is actually neural amp modular of the same amp that I use for this tracking, and this is Custom Audio Amplifiers tight model, which we just tracked, and you will have access to it, link in description. I'm using a little bit of a gate in front of it, and I'm using the Plini with all the amp sim options disabled but the gate set out quite a bit here. And let me show you what happens if you apply this to your separate track. I still hear that tail, even though it is more controlled now, but I can still hear that it's not perfect. If we gate it some more though, let's see what happens. Can you hear the problem? The gate is starting to react to the actual material, but it still leaves that tail intact. So if we listen to this in the mix with this gate applied, and we basically double gate it. First gate here, second gate in the neural amp modular a little bit. Let's check this out in the mix. Just the 2 tracks unedited. You don't have the freedom to manipulate this properly. What I would have done is I would have stripped silence like that manually and then rely on the gate to further take this away. This is a good approach, by the way. Let's compare it to the editor track and see how much tighter this sounds now. Now that sounds like a record. Let's keep this video brief and simple. I truly hope that by showing you how you can strip silence and clean up your guitar tracks, I inspired you to look into this next time you record. And I truly hope that this helps you to get tighter, more neat, and more professional sounding guitar next time you record. I'm Dr. Mike Trubetskov. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you want to go in a deep learning mode and really nail down guitar recording techniques, have a 5.5-hour course which is in early access now. Link to this is in description. It's basically similar to what I showed you, but insanely detailed. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.